about home. They're married to real estate.
Hi, everyone. Welcome to the podcast for people who love real estate and want to become inspired and informed. Whether you are a newbie real estate agent looking to get tips, learn a thing or two, or maybe you're a savvy property owner who wants to get a jump on the market, this is the place for you. We discuss our passion for real estate and people, and we bring together our personal experiences as well as our guests to learn from each other. You'll hear from experts in sales coaching, real estate law, mortgage lending, investing, and many local business owners on how to grow your business or your investment in real estate. I'm Mary McCauley.
I'm Mary Elliott.
I'm Mary Forster.
And we are Married to Real Estate. All right, everyone. Hello and welcome back. Mary, how's everything going?
Great. Well, ladies,
How about you?
Good, yeah, very well. Happy pre-Valentine's Day,
Yes,
the month
I'm
of
ready.
love.
I'm ready.
Yes, you do.
Oh, you do look very Valentine-y today. That's right.
Nice. So tell us what's going on. Tell us something good, Mary.
Let's see. Something good. I just got a house under contract in one day with a set of clients. I think I told you guys about them the last time. They're from Russia.
Oh, yeah.
I just love
Yeah.
this couple. And they're coming up.
Хорошо.
Yeah, and they're coming up from Alabama, and they are moving to Groton, my favorite town.
Yeah.
So I'm very pleased to have them, and they're saying that I'm now mandatory, their new best friend. So
Great.
that'll be fun for
That
me
will be
when they
very
get
fun.
here. And yeah, things are rolling quite well at the place. So
Very glad
I like
to hear
it.
that.
Mm-hmm.
And Mary Forster, what
Mary
about you?
Forrester's been busy doing a lot of Rotary stuff now as I'm kind of heading into the presidency of it.
Madam President.
Madam President.
Madam President, yeah, of the Westford Rotary. And they kind of hand off work to at the same
see.
time you want to prepare for the next year, right?
Right.
So it's a whole lot of that, and that's a lot of fun, and I'm enjoying that. And I want to tell you, our former guest, Patty,
Yes.
Mason,
Mm-hmm.
Yes.
her on Sunday, Super Bowl Sunday, she's 80 years old.
Oh, my
wow.
gosh.
So we had a little
Wow.
birthday party for her down at Classic Kitchen, and
Oh,
it
nice.
was a surprise one. It was
Oh,
really, really
happy
nice.
birthday, Patty.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And another of our guests, Nate Tello, is about to go into a national championship at age
Oh, good
40,
luck,
41.
Nate.
Yes,
Nate.
good
Yeah,
luck,
he's
Nate.
a bodybuilder who opened a business in Boston in the middle of COVID. Opened a gym, a
Yep.
very progressive gym. And so some of our peeps are doing really, really well.
Yeah, I
That's
love
fantastic.
that. I love that.
We're
Terrific.
rubbing off on people.
I think
are,
so.
yeah.
Hey, we make things happen.
Yeah, we do.
Well, so you brought up COVID, and one of the gifts of the pandemic was I got to meet our guest, Marilyn Burke.
Yes.
We've become good friends and travel buddies, and just so happy that she's in my life. So, Marilyn, why don't you tell everyone a little bit about you?
Yeah,
Welcome.
Mary and I covered birth to adulthood on the train to New York. So
Birth to adulthood. Oh, good.
absolutely what was happening. So I've been with an agent with Keller Williams for 19 years. So I'm a full-time realtor. I like to say game on realtor. So this is all I do. This is my passion. I also do home staging, and I'm very involved in the community. I do Lions, but I was a Rotarian at one time. And I just go where the people are. So that's my world. It's always been real estate, and I wish I found it a long time ago.
I feel like that.
Me too. Like once you get in, you say, this career, I just feel rings all the bells on the pinball machine for me.
Right.
Right? It
Yeah.
has all the
Yeah.
elements. It's
Yeah.
hard. It's creative. It's people. It's
Helping, solving problems.
Learning,
Yep.
always learning.
Yep,
always learning.
And
Always
unlimited growth potential.
Yeah.
Absolutely.
I love that. So the reason
No
that,
weekends.
Yeah.
Go ahead.
No weekend.
The reason that we asked Marilyn to come, another realtor, was not about your realtor hat per se, but about that you're a disc master. And I just, for everyone, can you explain what DISC is and sort of start there, and we'll...
Yes. So DISC is an acronym. The D, the I, the SC stand for a personality or a behavioral style. And it's basically, DISC is a measurement of someone's behavioral style. So when you talk about characteristics of someone, we all know. So if I said Oprah Winfrey, you'd say what? What are her observable characteristics?
She's
Outgoing,
she's a listener.
inquisitive,
Magnetic.
a leader.
And I swear I didn't prompt them to say that. They knew that because
Yeah.
we can observe her friendliness, her outgoing, and such we can with clients. So DISC, when you study DISC, you study the behavioral analysis of people. And I've always loved people. And there are DISC, a rose by any other name, right? Is still a rose. So DISC is also like Enneagram, like Myers-Briggs,
Okay, yeah.
like astrology, like many other personality tests that measure characteristics of people. This is just another name for it.
Right.
So
Okay.
being a master of it, I had to take a DISC test entering in Keller Williams, like other agents. And Keller believes that you don't put a square peg in a round hole.
Right.
And on a real estate team, you can have many people that fulfill a specific role that they're good at, that they're natural at. So you don't want to put a person who's shy as the rainmaker or in the driver's seat,
Right.
because they may be better served in another position, even though they might not know that yet. So when you study DISC, you basically help a candidate or an agent, as it may be, because that was my job, to recruit them
Yep.
or to recruit talent, to understand what skills they have naturally that are very useful in real estate.
But don't you think it's like know thyself too? You know, a little bit.
Yes.
I find that was where I started with DISC, was sort of like, what am I? And then I was like, I'm not, well, maybe I definitely that.
Yes.
Right? And
Yes.
I've got a little bit of that. And I wish I had more of that, you know?
Yes.
So why don't you go through maybe a little bit of like which ones
Sure.
they all are, like sort of the basic characteristics.
Sure, I'm going to start with so it is a neutral language too when we talk about DISC. It's universal. These are universal observable characteristics. And the D is the driver of the profile. So a D could also be called a type A.
Okay.
Now, what you have to remember I'm going to use fancy words, but on a composite or a descriptor, that the highest D, which is a 10, so picture a 0 to 10 scale, the character trait that shows up or is pronounced is what people observe. So a higher D has more aggression, direct, they're brutally frank.
Right.
But a lower D or a 0 on the scale is the opposite, more introverted. They're not going to say what they think. It's going to be a thought to themselves. So everyone has a range of each trait.
Right.
And that's the key. What Mary just said, you have to know thyself.
Right.
But when we talk about D in real estate, we're looking at our drivers, someone who's in a frontline position or who is takes initiative and action.
Right.
The I personality, or a high I, is the optimist, the enthusiast, very positive, very gregarious, charming, gets along with people. So the D is task oriented. The I is people focused.
Right.
So
Yep.
the I is into others before themselves, where the D just wants what the D wants. They don't care if they're liked, where the I does want to be liked by others. The S personality is security based, more stable, they're friendly, but what's interesting about an S is you can't read them as well, so they're more of a poker face. But by that trait, you can know them. Does that make sense? So the person who's
Right.
kind of the expressionless, we say, okay, it's an S, but to get to the deep well, it might take a train ride, right?
Right.
So I was like, you have to ask good questions, like a lot of how questions, and just listen. So
Yeah.
the S feels comfortable and they can share. And then the C is responsible, I say, for the rules and regulations. They're going to want to make sure we follow the procedure manual. So they're very detail oriented. And a lower C on the opposite end is very creative and not following rules. Rules are just suggestions. They're not really made to be followed. So interesting in real estate, you know, where we have all the compliance and the legal.
Yeah.
So like, oh, Marilyn, don't worry about that. And that's when I know I have a low C. Or even as team leader, I said the lead paint is not a suggestion document. You need to fill out the
Every
disclosure.
single one of those.
The do not call is not a suggestion.
Right. Yes. I love listening to people. So just to frame, D and C are task focused.
Yep.
And I and S are people focused, even though the I and the S will feel different. So it's all in when you know the person's in the room. You might have a husband and wife.
Yeah.
Usually they're different profiles. And you start to observe, oh my goodness, she's doing all the talking, he's laying back, or vice versa. He's doing all the talking and she's laying back and they're not saying anything. How do I engage the two of them? Hence, I'll study DISC so I can ask a few questions to determine who's in front of me and then tailor the presentation to those personality types. That's how
really
it can help.
fascinating. And I love the way it relates to hiring too, and how you can sort of look at this test and say, oh, you would be a great team lead. Let's not make you a team lead because you would shine in this. I love that because sometimes people going into a job, as you said earlier, think they want something.
Yes.
And it turns out that they might not actually excel at that. And this helps you and the person determine if they're going to excel in the job.
And if they're going to stay, and if
Right.
they're going to be happy, and if they're going to grow in that role. You know, it's all those things.
Yeah.
So, Mary Forster and I have taken this before, and you have too, Mary,
I have taken
right?
it. It's been a couple of years, so
Yeah.
I know that I was a higher I person than anything else.
Okay.
But I can't tell you where I landed on the scale for all
I
the
did
others.
get Mary Elliott's results.
So
So I'd love
we're
to
gonna-
hear where I stand today.
The big reveal.
Yeah.
And what are you, Mary?
I'm a high I.
Oh my!
And then my S and D are over the line, a little more S than D, and then my C is lower.
on the
It's only one page.
on the left side.
on the left.
Interesting.
Yeah.
I think you're rather creative.
Even
though
though, yes, and
I mean-
I like the order that C presents, but I'm not high enough where I want to do the spreadsheet and follow every rule to the letter.
Correct.
And some of that. I don't
Yeah.
want to look at
Right.
a chart and the numbers. I just
Yeah.
want to be like, okay, tell me the
Yes.
bottom line. So I am a.
That sounds
we are all a mix of a
similar
lot,
to
but
me.
some
And-
just are higher than others.
And you know what, ladies, I'll be very careful. One thing you have to be careful not to typecast or say, well, that doesn't mean the D's not creative.
Got it.
just
Right.
means that we're using this as a measuring stick. But when, excuse me, I can't use the word but because I'm in bold now too. And the person would identify, like Mary just did. Let me clarify, because the test isn't perfect. It's a guideline and it's a tool just to help you become familiar.
Right.
Is so everyone can be creative in their own right. So we really have to treat each individual, like that. And talking about the scoring of the test, anything over that midline or the 50% mark is what's observable to other folks.
Okay.
That's why, so when you say you are Mary said, I'm a high I,
Yeah.
and I've S and D. That means all those traits are over the midline and can be pronounced at different parts of the job. And then we should talk about, too, the core you
Yep.
and the you in your environment. Because
Okay.
that's fascinating
Yes.
as well.
Wow, that sounds
That is
really
very,
fascinating.
and I'm sure different.
Yes.
So
Yeah.
how did Mary Elliott, what did Mary Elliott's, what are her?
Who am I?
The big reveal, Mary Elliott is an IS, and she's almost a 10 and 10-9 on the scale. So she's very, she
High
is
achiever
a
in the eyes.
people person. People.
Yeah.
And
No surprise to anyone that knows her.
Right. This is the least surprising thing we've said all day, right?
Yep, a little bit.
She's her D and her C are 0 to 1. So that and so in real estate, the SIIS profile profile does extremely well with buyers and sellers because they can intuit, they can connect, they can get, they just get people, they make people very comfortable.
Yep.
And so it's an easy
true.
score for you.
Thank you.
true.
And that is true. That's what I love the most about this
But
job.
what did you say to me before you were like, I was cranky when I took this?
I was.
She thought it was going to be different.
I did. I was like, I'm going to come off as like a tyrant, but no, I guess not. It's the same to the core. Although I'm interested to know what my core self is as well.
Well, interesting. So let me just give you some descriptors.
Sure.
Enthusiastic, persuasive, convincing, poised, optimistic, trusting. That's the I. Her S is patient, possessive, predictable, consistent, steady, and stable.
Nice.
So your core you and your adapted you are almost identical.
Wow.
So you are a
Interesting.
what you see is what you get.
Yeah.
I'd say that's...
I've heard that a time or two. Yeah.
What you don't know
Let me
about Mary,
translate that.
her first closing has made international news.
Oh, well,
Wow.
that's yes. Okay, national, maybe. More like state. And probably
National.
international.
National news. Don't
That's
downsell
true.
it.
I mean, I did help a woman give birth at her closing, essentially. So,
First closing.
First closing.
Yeah.
And you
Yep.
stayed in the
It was
profession and
historic.
said, I
did.
do this.
Yes.
Well, you weren't like there with your mitt catching
Not
the baby.
catching the baby.
Yeah.
20 minutes away.
She was
No, I know.
getting in she was in active labor, and we were standing at the closing table
Yeah.
outside of the hospital, and I was holding her hand and coaching her through, like, you can do this, it's okay. And
How interesting and how perfect. And God picked you for that role in that minute, and
Yeah.
you did it.
Yeah.
Now, another profile, when we learn about DISC, might say, let me call someone or I'm out, right?
Stand over here while you do it.
Yeah.
Or panic.
Didn't
and not
cross my
do.
mind.
Yeah.
No, didn't cross my
Yeah,
mind.
I
I
love
heard
that.
she was in labor. I said, okay, let's get this done. I know how much this means to you to close
awesome.
today so you can take the baby home. And we just got through it. And,
Yeah.
Isn't that amazing?
That is.
Yes, it's very amazing.
But
Thanks.
I'm going to touch you.
So, yeah.
I met her on the show. Yeah.
Oh my gosh.
That's funny. So, Mary,
You were going
go
to
ahead, the core.
interpret something.
Yeah, so her core, the core you, if I dropped you, I always tell people, if I put you on Survivor Island and came back in 1 week, the core you will show up. That is the real you with no mask.
Right.
Okay? Sometimes, so the adapted you is you in your environment. Sometimes people, in order to, say, get a job, they become the job.
Right.
The
What they think they
characteristics,
want.
they'll
Right.
see it
Yeah.
on an interview, and this is very important with the team. So they might say, gregarious, yeah, I can do that. And then 1 month into the job, you start observing, wow, they're really quiet. They're not really good on the phones. They
Right.
really are shy around people. So they took to the test. They said, well, this is what the job requires. I'm going to doctor my interview. That probably helped them get the job, but it's not really a helpful thing in the long run. It would be better to do a job fit.
Right.
So you being authentic, Mayor, just says, A, you know yourself, right? And she's not stretching to do the real estate job. When we see the adapted and the core her in disconnect or in extreme, we say, what the heck is going on? It means
Right.
they have to, so for example, if real estate required you to be patient and you were really super impatient, you might be too itchy with the clients, right? You don't have the patience meter to take time, deliver babies or whatever is required
Right.
for the task, right?
So you're a survivor. You'd survive on that island alone. You'd adapt.
if the D trait is always brutally frank, right? Then in their adapted environment, they might lower for a while. But remember, we talked about on the podcast, once stress comes, the real them is going to show
Right.
up. They start yelling at clients,
Right.
getting demanding, and people like, what happened?
Well, who
what
is
happened
this
to the
person?
person we
Pushing.
interviewed? So they get more pushy, more dominant, and hey,
Right.
you need to do. And then they're fighting with clients. That really is the core personality. that the one that went on the appointment was the math,
right?
And they toned it down.
Yep.
So they might be better driving the team, sending out the ISs, SIs. You deal with people because I'm not as nice when I'm under pressure,
right?
So that's how you figure out the team roles.
That's very, very interesting. And I have to tell you, I'm pretty relieved to know that I do actually know myself, because even in answering the questions, I'm like, I think it feels right this way, but I'm not sure. And maybe it's just my mood right now. And maybe it's, if you asked me a month ago or whatever, maybe I'm wrong, but it feels like it lines up,
So Mary, the core you, according to disc theory, which has been around, it's, since the 1800s, they studied astrology, older than medicine. So Marston, when he coined this, said the core you does not change, you're fixed. What you could see is if you were under pressure.
Yep.
So the pandemic is an example of a high pressure, intense situation where different profiles responded to that environment differently. Some people retreated and got reclusive, where others said, I need to help. What can I do, right?
Where others went and got their real estate license and joined the
or did
career they always wanted.
Connected more people, Mary Forrester.
And they realized what was important too. So under pressure, what's another pressure? Divorce, a medical illness, a death of a spouse or a death of a child, something that just shakes you to the core can make someone disc out, and and that disc profile might be in flux, and it shows up in the test. You can see there's certain readings that you have to that they would say have the A, you'd take the test over, or B, you'd have to, just examine and talk to them about that. Like you might be under pressure. I've changed right now because you're under stress.
Right.
So,
Right.
So Mary Forrester, what about you? You've taken this before. What were your
I took
results?
this before, and I'm interested in this kind of adaptive versus core thing because I worked in legislation most of my career. So I was in a linear organization. Well, I'm more horizontal in everything I do. So it was a challenge to be in such, with lawyers and regulators and other lobbyists, and I see the difference between an adapted style and a natural style. And
can I borrow your test, and I'll help. So I'll tell you what shows up. And so let's just talk about her job for a minute, dealing with legislators and attorneys and decision makers. And your profile is an IS. Now, your degree of I is at the 80% mark, and your S is at the 60% mark. You're still a people person, but you don't have an extreme measurement of that profile. And your I in your environment, you're adapted, you get friendlier, more assertive, more talkative than maybe your natural style. So you bring your style up to meet the needs of the environment. Your S also, you lower your S as an adaptation in your environment. So it might require you to go at a different pace where you're more patient, and yet the environment calls for more action. So it looks like how your adapted show up. Your C, interestingly enough, which was you're in a high creative, you actually get more firm and unwavering in your environment. And maybe you needed to do that if they said you have to make a decision and take a stance.
Right.
And your D is kind of relatively unchanged. It's careful. They use the word calculating, which I just don't like.
That sounds evil, but it's not.
I'm calculating?
Evil geniuses calculate. That's not what we're talking about.
I don't love the word, but let's just dissect it. When you can calculate something, it means you combine analysis with choice or decision, and that to me is not a negative. You think before you speak. You think before you act. So you deliberately observe the environment, then make a decision. So that I think that's a form of intelligence. You're not just winging it it, making accidental statements all over the place. So I've had to change the meaning of calculating not to be a negative.
Thank you.
Right? Yeah, because and you have this.
I would have never said that about
Yeah, I
you.
know.
I know, that's
you
what
would.
It's not a nice word. Let's just
let's get rid of that
cross
word.
it off.
Yes, that's right.
You are cooperative. Your personality style. You kind of have this extroverted I with an introverted D, which is interesting. I don't know how that shows up because part of you can go with the people, but you might be thinking the thoughts and not say them. You're going to say them more diplomatically. Does that sound like you?
That's the business. You know,
Yes.
that is always the business. Always the
Interesting.
business.
Yeah.
To be enthusiastic and out there about a mission that I was on.
Yeah.
At the same time, always kind of assessing who I'm talking to and how I can move them a little bit, because that was really what it was all
Right.
about. But in terms of sales, that was interesting. That was
Yeah.
very
I love
interesting.
what she just said. So you could hear analysis in what she said.
Yes.
She observed. She knew her goal. How do I move them from A to B? And we have to do that with sales, with sellers and buyers too. So you do that. That's your style. You're not going to be abrasive. You're going to come across as you're going to think about it first and then assess and then do. So that's a great skill that you have. It's a balanced profile. So don't worry about, and yours is very consistent too. If I drew a line from your D's to, it's not an extreme. You're kind of a what you see is what you get to. It's just a very small, subtle nuance that it might not show up. Others might not know. It's going to be something more you'll see. Does that make sense?
It does. And I find doing real estate up here very different from Northern Virginia because, of course, we wrote the contract down there. So you're doing all of that. You have that responsibility there.
Yeah.
That's very different here. Here, it all has to be on the 2-page kind of offer, right?
Offer, yes.
Yeah.
Yep.
And then you rely on somebody else to carry through the weight on the rest. You don't
Correct.
get to do that. You have to kind of carry it right from the
Yep.
beginning. So it's very
Same
different
with
up
New
here.
Hampshire.
Yes.
Yeah. Yep.
Well, I think real estate, there's a repertoire of skills we need. We not only do we need the people skills, we also need the contract, the
Absolutely.
attention to detail. And some people can do both successfully. Other people have to leverage, right? So let's just go on.
Go
the
back to mine
team.
and tell me where I land on that scale because I'm good talking to the people.
Yes. I'll make a suggestion that you should hire out for paperwork, okay? It's not going to be your favorite
That is a
part of the
fact
job.
that is known to me at
Yes.
this point. Yes.
And that's okay, because we all have that on our profile.
Yep.
It's nothing to be, ashamed. It's especially when we're the people part of the
Right.
job.
Right.
But
And-
isn't it also a relief? Like, aren't you going to be relieved if someone who loves paperwork and you're like, here, take all my
here, please
paperwork.
do it.
Right?
Yeah.
You're making them happy. You're making you
Absolutely.
happy. It's going to get done right. And phew, you don't have to think about it again.
And honestly, it's so far from what I
Yeah.
like that it's strange to me to think that somebody else would like it and that it's okay for me to put it on them. Do you know what I mean?
I feel like that too. I'm like, they're
not
a
a
little bit of an
weakness.
anomaly. They
No,
love
I'm not
paperwork.
saying it's a weakness.
No.
No. It's just, it's so far out of my comfort zone and like not so far out of my comfort zone to follow the rules, but, and the details of a contract, but just sitting down to do it, I get bored. I'm not talking
Distracted.
to somebody. I
Right.
get distracted.
You're like, this is good enough.
and it's
I'm
it's
done.
great to know that other people, this is part of their personality, and it makes them like
Right.
sing inside.
yep.
You know,
And I have a great example of that. So, new team leader, Maggie Spaziano, who's the New England tech trainer. She's now Maggie McDowell. We would go in. Remember the cartoon with the dog? And I don't even remember. He had his lunchbox. Hi, Sam. They'd see each other. They'd have the cartoon would take off, and they'd be interactive, and then they go back. See you later. So no words. When I got to the office, I didn't have to say hello. I could say, hi, Maggie, go to my office. She was in her office. She had 12 screens open. She really didn't say a peep all day. She had a mountain of paperwork that started, and it would be small at the end of the day. I was on the phone all day.
Right.
From the minute I, plugged in, I had my goal, boom, boom,
Yeah.
boom, and went. And then we'd say, see you later, see you tomorrow. That was the day. So she was in her little hub of quiet technology. She had to have music on. I'd be like, oh, it's too distracting. She'd have a million things going on at the same time. Me was the phone. That's it.
People.
And people and interviewing and talking. And so it was just but together, and I could never understand why she wanted to do that
Right.
job. I always felt bad. I'm like, that's
what I'm saying. Yeah.
that she loved it. She
That's
still
amazing.
loves it.
Yeah.
Right. And I was fascinated by the fact that she'd do that all day, because I'd be
Right.
like, you itchy.
Yeah.
I don't want to, like, how can you do that all day? She didn't move from the chair. That's the day. That's
She
her
was
job.
probably thinking, how did you do what you did all day?
How does she
right?
talk to all
How
those
does that be
people?
talked
How does she
out?
relate
Yeah.
to them?
Right,
Yeah.
all those
Yeah.
phone calls. Yeah.
And it's interesting when you interview too, sometimes I could know like in 15 minutes. I'm thinking if they're going to a seller's table and they can't wow me in 15 to 30 minutes, they probably can't wow the client. So I would pay attention to that, and she'd say, how was it? I said, sometimes I was like, nope. You counsel them into a different position or counsel them out, because you have to set people up to be successful in this job, right? Sometimes they're asking you, do you, if I'll be a good fit, you have a responsibility to tell the truth. I felt like,
Yeah.
I think that's true.
I really
and I would
agree with
appreciate
that.
the truth.
Yeah.
Because you don't want to pursue a career that you're not going to be good at, and it's never going to feel like home. It's
Yeah.
never going to be exciting. You're not going to love it.
Yeah.
It's going to feel like drudgery and work.
No, and I
every
really
day.
respect the fact that Keller Williams gives this to every one of its new employees
Yeah.
and does help to guide them into the right position for them. It should be, I think, sort of required for all companies to do. Maybe not
or
a disc
college
test, but-
graduates getting a first job.
Exactly.
There's
Yeah.
so many applications for this.
There are companies that do have assessment tests
Yeah.
and do measure people in to do job fit.
Yeah.
It's just not, I don't think it's the norm, but I actually don't know that research, so I'm holding back because I don't know that would be an interesting
Yeah.
study to see how many companies use DISC or an assessment test and how many don't. It certainly would be a useful tool, because it's so expensive to hire someone and they're not in the right position.
Right.
So let me give you something to think about. This is kind of fun, because you said you like to have fun. on the sitcoms that we watch, they have the 4 profile types. So I'm going to give you guys a little quiz.
Okay.
And you're going to tell me. So let's use Seinfeld. There
Okay.
are 4 main characters. Who is the D? Who is the I? Who's the S? And who's the C?
Kramer's the C,
And why would you say that?
because he is sort of the wild, crazy guy and creative, I would say. I probably don't know them well enough to be able to.
Yeah, I'm trying to think.
Elaine would be the I, right?
I was going to say Elaine's the I think.
So
I think, yeah, okay.
So
okay.
let's think enthusiastic, gregarious, optimistic.
That's
we have
I.
the direct, brutally frank, says it like it is. We have the warrior, the high C, worries about everything. Oh my goodness,
That's George.
Okay,
nervous,
that's true.
right?
Yeah.
That's, yeah.
And then the S is just the steady, stable,
that's
patient.
Jerry, I feel like.
Yeah. So
Yeah.
not-
Okay.
Yeah.
it's interesting. So we know Elaine is the I, right?
Yeah.
Hey, and the way she enters the room, right? We know George because he's easy. He's always complaining. He's negative. He's pessimistic.
Yes.
He sees the world with the glass half empty all the time, right?
Right. Right.
Kramer and Elaine, we know they're people, but they show up different, right?
Yep.
So
Yep.
Kramer would be your S, and then Jerry. Jerry's kind of brutally frank,
Yeah.
isn't he?
He can
He
be.
says
He's
it
the
like
D.
it is.
Yeah.
He's not so abrasive, though. He hurts anyone's feelings. He just gets right to it.
He's
though.
the driver.
Yeah, he's
Yeah.
the driver.
Yeah.
Yeah.
That's funny.
Is it the
That's
are
very
you seeing
interesting.
a formula in a lot of these sitcoms?
Yes, ma'am.
Right.
Oh,
the
really?
successful ones, probably.
Everybody loves Raymond.
Yeah.
See, I don't
never
know
really
know
watched
that
that
show.
one.
Yeah.
All right. Let me just think.
Friends.
Friends. You could do
Yeah.
Friends. So Monica.
Yep, she'd be
The
the.
C, I would think.
Monica is the C.
Okay.
Who else is on Friends?
Ross, Joey.
Yeah.
Oh, Phoebe.
Phoebe.
Yeah.
Phoebe's going to be an I.
Yeah.
Or an S, maybe. She's,
Or an I or an S. Yeah.
Interesting.
That's really interesting. You must walk around looking at groups of people.
It's like the interior designer
nice to
comes
meet
into
you.
your house.
Like, did you know before you even looked at our results what we were when you came in the room?
Kind of.
A little bit,
yeah,
right?
A little bit. Well, I watched how you were talking before the show, so I said, okay, well, they're all talkative. They're not,
Yep.
but I noticed these, you were talking to you. I know Mary.
I'm the loud
You hung
one.
back a
A little
tiny bit.
reserved. Yeah, I did,
You
yeah.
jumped in at the appropriate moments.
Yeah.
That's what I observed. And I know Mary, so,
Right.
and Mary does that too. Mary is a wealth of knowledge, but she doesn't just put it all on the menu. We don't get to hear it, so I have to prod her a little, like, come on,
That's
you
right.
should share.
Yep.
Because her brilliant brain, she comes up with lots of stuff.
She
so.
does. She's
Yeah.
a genius. She's
She
a
can
true
be
genius.
anything.
Absolutely.
Like, has all the best ideas.
This is the All About Me podcast.
Okay.
Well, I don't know if she told you, but we did the 12-month calendar on the train, and we pulled it up, and we were like a brainstorm.
Wonderful.
But it was like we probably did a week's worth of planning, and Mary didn't even know because it was like plug and go. She just go, well, we could do this and this and this.
Like
and it was,
National Taco Day.
Yeah,
right.
You know,
Yeah,
that
it's
kind of
fun.
stuff.
Yeah,
Yeah.
National
And
calendar.
that's her.
Yes.
That's
Her
a shining quality of hers. She has
Yes.
all of these amazing ideas. And
Yeah.
every time I hear about the next one she's doing, I'm like, oh my God, where'd you get that idea? And she's like, I just thought of it. You know?
And Mary, that's what I observed too. It's not like her ideas are not the same. Your ideas are not the same as what. It's not in the textbook.
Right.
You thought of it. I go, oh, she puts her own spin on
Right.
it. Your creative is really high.
Yeah.
Like, even I forget if it
what
was
I'm
New Year's or
saying.
Christmas. So she's like, well, I'm going to do, like, very casually said, I go, what? What are you doing? She's got the tray. She's got the whole
My
format.
holiday
You're-
extravaganza.
Yes,
Yeah,
I loved it.
Cookies with Santa, pictures with Santa.
Right, a
all
trackless
that.
train, a
Oh my
Yeah.
gosh.
holiday shop,
Of course.
craft,
It was
cookie
cute.
decorating.
Yeah,
Just
very high
put it together,
energy
no
level.
big deal.
Yes.
Very high energy
Threw it
level.
together.
Whatever.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And so that's always fun to learn. But no, I don't spend I just observe it. You know where I think it shows up the most in real estate, excuse me, is when I don't have the connection. So when I first started, sorry, I have a tickle.
That's okay.
When I first started my way back when, even before I did real estate, I was a weight loss coach. And sometimes I was accused of being too honest or
Brutally
frank.
honest.
Brutally honest.
Little D
and-
showing up.
Yeah.
but not trying to be mean. I was being truthful. Like, well,
Right.
How was your weekend? Let's talk. They'd keep a food journal, so I'd just say, if you can we replace this with this or
Right.
And I used to say, like, let's walk through the brownie. Let's walk through you eating it. It took 1 minute, and at the end, and now you're mad at yourself. What if we just could stop it at the motion at the beginning? So we do strategy and problem solving. And I'd think, good session, and then off we go. And I was young. I was in college, too.
Right.
So that was probably, some people would complain. Marilyn said this to me today, and I'm thinking, I'm replaying the conversation going, that went really well. We talked about
That
what
was great.
Right. I hit all the points. And right. They should be thanking me.
Told her exactly what to do.
So I'm going to
Fix it.
rewind and then go back and say, no, it didn't go well because it didn't go well for them in their perspective. And that's when I learned I need to listen more. I need to, because I didn't want to hurt anyone. What I thought was helpful wasn't for different people.
Right.
And that was a key lesson at 27 to say, wow, you can hurt with words. You
Yep.
can hurt with what you say if you don't understand what they want or need. I thought I was delivering what I thought, and it was incorrect. And
Right.
same thing with real estate. So the consultation, it takes more time for me now. I can shut my mouth, ask questions, and observe, and say, what does this family need? How can I serve them? Because I don't want to make a mistake on, say the wrong thing.
Right.
Right.
And
Right.
then,
So-
Yeah.
and it's true because you can walk out of a consultation or, a presentation and be like, I just didn't connect with them. And like you felt the misstep the whole time
Yep.
because you just couldn't. And I think I do have a hard time with some high C's because I just, don't feel like I can relate, and I need to get that away from me, I, and be more about them. And, you know, I do have a client, and we did get to the finish line, and, you know,
Awesome, yeah.
it did make that change.
Transition.
Yeah, because I'm aware of it because of DISC mostly.
Yeah.
So.
I think it's so helpful to be aware of these things. And you mentioned it at the beginning, but my mother was a big Myers-Briggs enthusiast when I was growing up, and she gave that test to every single one of my boyfriends that came through the house.
I love that.
Love that.
But for her, that was her sort of assessment. Like, should you be near my daughter? Like,
That's the scientific approach.
but I
love
also took that
Let
many
me guess,
times.
are you single still?
just divorced once or twice.
Yeah.
Did he take the test?
He did take the test, and she. We'll leave that to
It's another podcast.
another podcast. But it was very good for me to be just aware of personality traits, even growing up, you know, and that's why I really appreciate this test. I think it's even a little bit more fine-tuned than Myers-Briggs is. But knowing my whole life, I've been labeled, you know, I'm an INFJ. That's what I am.
Yeah.
And,
You poor thing.
like my godmother, my mom's best friend, is also an INFJ, and my mother would be like, "Well, that's why I love you both, because that's you know."
Well, you do tend to, you know, gravitate towards like
She raised me to be her best friend, I think. So.
I love it.
Let's take 2 points from that too, because you do tend to connect with others. You'll attract what you are. So others that are like you.
Right.
Now, one thing I would love to tell mom is don't typecast mom. Like, let you be you first, an individual. Because what if you didn't feel like you were that personality? And what if you wanted to be? And who knows if the guy could have been someone other than, like, a learning-based guy would, but I did DISC my husband, just so you guys know. Before I met him.
You should.
Did he know?
And he took the test, so I had my own little, you know, idea. And I still tell him John should have came with a set of instructions. Mary met him.
I did.
And
once, briefly, and it was all business, all right to solving the problem.
Interesting.
And
Very direct.
His first profile though, I go, there's no way. I was like, you're either like love blind or you just can't see. And I was like, there's no way. And I said, when you answered, I asked him 10,000 questions, and he had like because he's a straight faced guy, like no emotion. I go, when you answered it, were you like, relax, like what, did you think about it? Did he overthink? Because I was like, I think you need to take this again, because I feel like maybe it was that test, or it didn't. It's the same test.
Yeah.
But I was like, there's no way in heck
You broke the test.
It came out that way. Well, he took it later again, and he's exactly what I thought. And he said, you don't know, because he used to get mad at me because I'd say, well, I think you need, and he didn't want me pigeonholing him or putting him in that box. Even though Mary could assess, she met him for 5 minutes, 10 minutes.
Yeah.
And you could see, and you can read,
but only because I'm aware, only because I've been on this DISC journey, like with you, and you started that what is it, Clubhouse?
Yes.
And the Facebook group, and I've taken your class on DISC, and that came into my world, so I'm aware. I don't know if I would have ever been able to articulate that, or even have thought more about it. I don't know.
Yeah, it does make you think, and it does make you examine. So I think it's only going to be a skill that we need to go on appointments and when we're meeting folks.
No, it's definitely useful, and I fought against the I part of my INFJ, which means introverted versus extroverted. And now in my mid-40s, I realize that indeed that's true, but as a teenager, I'm like, this is BS. I am a social butterfly. But then I'd be really exhausted after, or I'd, need a week from not going out with my friends, So introvert, extrovert. And then I came to realize, like, oh, that label, that's correct. That is actually it. And then I push myself to be the other thing, because I didn't like the label.
Well, your I and your S both although they connect with people, the S can get extremely drained after an interaction.
Right.
Where your I might seek, like, I'm not feeling that great. I think I'll go out with my friends.
Right.
I want to hang out with people.
Right.
Where the S could be exhausted after a people experience. So that's where you're probably feeling. Sometimes I feel like this. I might seek it, and then I go, oh my God, what did I do?
Sometimes yes, sometimes no. Exactly. Yeah.
That's
Marilyn,
funny.
I have a question.
Sure.
So I had a lot of people from overseas were my clients. And are there any differences in terms of cultural differences to be considered?
That's a great question.
Yeah.
They say that DISC is universal because it's observable by all populations all over the world. So if you were with people, when you don't speak the same language as someone, for example, what do we have to rely on?
Body language.
Body language. Mary just said they're nonverbal cues, and you can tell if you're in agreement. You can also tell when you sort of invade their space or you didn't follow protocol, right? If in America we shake hands and you go to extend and they back up, like they'll with their body, you'll get a cue like, I'm not going to do that again.
Right.
So yes, if you're super tuned into that, you probably had to pivot with different cultures and populations. What I don't know is if they studied it. Here's what's also interesting. When you study it on a global scale, what's popular for the, say, salesperson of United States, remember the old, I'm just going to say car salesman because it's easy, but telling somebody, the buyer, the client, what they want.
Right.
Where in another country, they might be the listener first, and those are the best salespeople.
Interesting.
So what they orient as a good skill is different across the globe.
Absolutely.
Interesting.
Okay.
Excellent.
Interesting.
Thanks.
That's fascinating.
Thanks.
And
Well-
it's really something to be conscious of when you're speaking with people from other countries, and because you think your style is the one that is the correct one to get the result you're looking for,
Absolutely.
but it could be the exact opposite.
But
to
that's
those people.
why you're supposed to listen and observe and be aware of all that. Marilyn, before we go, tell people where they can find you on Clubhouse and on
Okay.
Facebook for your DISC
Thank you.
group if anyone wants to join.
So I'm on Facebook. It's called Discuss and Discover. So it's in the
Okay.
name, capitalized DISC, and that's a Facebook group.
Okay.
And Clubhouse, we're doing 7 to 7:30 on Saturday morning, and I can send Mary the link if you
Okay.
want to join in, and it's Marilyn Burke. And my company is Marilyn Company, doing under Keller Williams umbrella.
Excellent.
So-
and if you're in the Westwood,
I'm in Keller Williams. It's called Boston Southwest, but it's
Okay.
Westwood.
Okay.
Westwood, Mass. And I service Boston Metro South, Southwest, and Rhode Island. I actually live in
Rhode Island.
Plainville.
Oh, great.
oh,
So I'm
great.
duly licensed.
Okay.
My parents are both from Providence and my cousins, so my extended family. So it just made sense to get both licenses.
So if you're looking for an agent who's going to know you inside and out within 30 seconds of walking in the door,
And don't be afraid of that. It's a good
Don't be
thing.
afraid.
She'll find you the perfect house.
yes,
Yes.
that's exactly what you need. You need somebody who knows what you are to match you with the correct transaction, the correct house, and the right location.
Yeah.
Thank you.
So
Very
Marilyn,
important.
thank you again
You're
for
welcome.
joining
I
us.
loved it.
much.
Thank you so
It's
much.
really lovely.
Yeah.
Appreciate it.
Yeah, appreciate it.
All right.
That's
Bye
a wrap.
bye.